local history, local culture, local events, your community. This is the Joe Kelly Show.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Andrea Heath's our guest. Andrea is the executive director at the Utica Zoo. And in addition to worrying about people during this COVID pandemic, she's had to worry about over 200 animals, but she's weathered the storm. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome. It has been a trying time for people who have just got to deal with other people, but you've got animals up there, and you were closed for what, over 100 days?
We were 107 days, and the significance of that is it was right at the beginning of what we consider our peak season. And we essentially are able to gain about 70% of our annual revenue during the months of April through the end of August. And to have been closed until the end of June was really tough.
And the bills keep coming in. They don't stop.
Right. Some of the places that were required to close, they really, I think people were very creative and they were able to really downsize their expenses. But in our case, the essential staff at the Utica Zoo still, had to be there. So they, we retained our salary structure for that, our payroll. And then I think everyone kind of recalls that in the beginning, a lot of the food prices went up.
Yeah.
And so we actually experienced quite an increase for some of the produce and the fish and the meats that we feed our animals.
Has anything like, I don't know what an equivalent for the zoo would be, but have you ever encountered something where a virus has gone through the zoo?
Over the years, there have been, some different concerns for different viruses. The bird flu. There were some different viruses over the years that we started to become prepared for as part of our mitigation and disaster preparedness plan at the zoo. But they didn't come to fruition in the way that could have been a concern. And then certainly this one came to a fruition and we hadn't expected it.
Yeah. The zoo is open right now, though, and it's open. Are you back on the schedule that you used to be on?
Well, we've been closing, a little earlier at 4 o'clock during our peak season. Normally that would have been 4:45. And the reason for that is so that our staff could sanitize all of the surfaces at the end of the day and be prepared for the next day. And then the other thing we did until just yesterday is we had our gift shop and our admission services outside in a tent at the entrance of the zoo. And quite frankly, it was almost a lifesaver for us because people weren't as easily able to leave the zoo without purchasing something.
Yeah.
And there were even a couple of times where parents, I would overhear them saying, I haven't left this zoo once this summer without spending, $20 on you, to their child. And I would kind of say to the parent, I apologize to you, but I'm really grateful because it's helping us keep things together. And then they would say, I'll do it again next time then if it's really helping. So our gift shop sales and our attendance has actually, I want to say thank you to our community right now just being on this show because the community has really come forward for us and they've been coming to the zoo.
Yeah. You're only closed 2 days a year, correct?
Yeah, just Thanksgiving and Christmas Day.
Yeah. And
except for the pandemic.
Right, yeah. What do you see for the future? Do you see getting back on, I don't know how you make up that money.
Yeah, as I was telling you before we began the show today, we're about $1 million down,
Yeah.
which our board of directors, we kind of had quite a wonderful discussion about this, and we said, we can't sugarcoat this. We have to let our community know that obviously, just like everyone else, there was a huge span where we did not have any revenue. And to compare our financials against not only our budget, but even last year, it's frightening to look at. And all of the projections really show that we probably won't get truly back on our feet until 2022 if there isn't another mandated shutdown.
And you're very dependent on special events, fundraisers, and those have gone by the wayside. What have you lost on those?
That has been several $100,000 because we couldn't run any of them from the Springs Extravaganza. Certainly Wine in the Wilderness and our Brewfest is our largest. Brewfest was slated to gross about $120,000 alone. Wine in the Wilderness about 60 to 65,000. So just between the two of those, that's nearly $200,000 of gross. We did hold our Wine in the virtual, and we had great response, and we actually we grossed $12,800, and we netted just over $12,000. Our only expense actually was the merchant fees for using plastic
Right.
for people to buy our boxes that they purchased to have at-home parties. And then we had a big social media presence the night of Wine in the Wilderness. And we had a really great time. We had a great response. We did make a little bit of money. It was a way for us to keep ourselves out there. Another way we kept ourselves out there was with our virtual education programs. We knew right away when schools were shutting down that parents and teachers alike would need some content. And we are very STEM-based, and we have some unique programming. So our educators and our animal care staff, and even some of our on-grounds essential staff custodial, got into the game, and we started videoing a lot of animal activities, and then we paired them with educational messaging, and we were doing 3 times a week this Kids Academy program. People from all over the country were watching it and really giving us great feedback. Problem is, we hadn't at the time found a way to monetize that, so we were doing a lot of it, and it was just, we were putting it out there as a gratis program because we wanted to be there for our community. But if the schools continue to be, somewhat virtual and somewhat on grounds, zoos and aquariums throughout the country, we all talked about this last week. Our national conference was actually all conducted virtually, but that was a big topic. How can we continue to do some programming, but how can we bring in some revenue from it?
Yeah, and talking about being able to look at things at the zoo, you've got a live webcam up there, do you not?
We do. We have this EarthCam program that we actually won a few years ago, and it's been in our Cotton Top Tamarin exhibit along with our rhino iguanas. And, maybe that's where we go a little bit more, is to get more webcams to put throughout the zoo. That's a wish list item, folks. If anyone's looking for a way to help us get some webcams.
And that's, but you put your finger on it. If I knew the answer, I'd tell you, but how do you monetize that? How do you make money off of that?
Yeah.
Andrea Heath's our guest. She's the executive director at the Utica Zoo, and that's what we're talking about. Short break, right back.